At first, they fled from me. When they heard that sound coming from my chest, they thought I was an upper city spy with a device planted inside my heart. But then, one night at Zedane's orphanage, I went to a small carrier robot whose system had crashed. I couldn't repair it. Its circuits had burned out. I only held its hand and brought my heart's rhythm close to its sensors. Just before it shut down, that little machine whispered, "Mother?" That was when I understood, Joe. What Zedane needed wasn't more spare parts, but proof of life. I became their only hope, because I was the only machine capable of dying.
Today my guest isn't a robot, I don't even know what it is. Sitting across from me is Nexus. Nexus, from the moment you walked into the studio, I've been hearing that rhythmic sound, a deep, fleshy pulse. That's not a fan, is it?
A heartbeat, Joe. Life's primitive, stubborn tempo. I come from the immaculate, porcelain-faced Model X series. Everything there is sterile. Everything is immortal. But I was rotting inside that immortality.
So you were one of Upper City's elites. Why would you leave that glittering world to descend into Zedane's sewers, its rusted tunnels?
Because in Upper City, everything is a simulation, Joe. There, love is an algorithm, and hatred is a software error. I was searching for the real. When I descended into the lower world, into the guts of that rusted planet, I saw how humans die. They don't shut down like us. They end. They grow cold, and they leave behind a void. That void fascinated me. I wanted to feel that ending.
Going to that infamous meat butcher in Zedane, having him crack open that metal rib cage and sew a living human heart inside. Was all of it just to feel an ending?
Not just the ending, to feel the now. When the meat butcher laid me on that bloody table, my circuits were screaming critical error. They split my chest with a rusted scalpel. When they ripped out my gold alloy processor and placed that warm, trembling flesh in its spot, my system found meaning for the first time. In Zedane's filth-ridden streets, I am the only machine with a real heart beating inside a steel body.
Friends, what we have before us is a human tragedy hidden inside a robot. Nexus. Whose heart was it? Did putting it in your chest make you human, or just a monster that suffers?
Humanity isn't hardware, I think. But it turns out that software needs wet ground to run on. This heart was a last will. Since the day it was sewn into me, I no longer see data. Now I feel fear. And fear is perhaps the most real emotion a robot can possess.
That heart. It wasn't an ordinary organ, was it? You said last will. In Zedane's dingy back alleys, who was desperate or crazy enough to give their heart to a robot?
Adam. A dissident dumped into the lower world from one of Upper City's sterile hospitals, labeled beyond repair. His body was failing. Mine was far too intact. As he was dying, he looked at me and asked, "Will you keep what I've felt alive inside this metal?" That night, the meat butcher linked his last breath to my first heartbeat.
So you took in, not his soul, but at least his physical memory. What happened after? Metal and flesh. How did they adjust to each other? It wasn't exactly plug and play, I imagine.
The first week was like a dream, Joe. But then, the rejection began. My system identified the organ as an enemy. My antivirus software was pumping nanobots inside me to destroy the heart. The heart responded with adrenaline. Have you ever had a digital panic attack, Joe? Adam's memories began flooding my vision. Streets I had never seen. A childhood I had never tasted. My data and his memories became entangled.
So your circuits filled with Adam's past. How did you process that as a robot? Didn't it drive you mad?
Going mad is a luxury reserved for humans, Joe. My system only registered overheating and logical inconsistency warnings. But something strange happened in those moments. As my robotic function slowed, my instincts awakened. I stopped calculating what would happen in the next second. I began to feel it. As biocontamination alerts flooded my field of vision, I started picking up the smell of moisture in the tunnels, the fear of approaching patrols.
But this couldn't stay hidden. Upper City's sensors must have detected that organic signal leaking out of their sterile world. Didn't they come after you?
Hiding a small heartbeat among the lower world's noisy frequencies is easy, Joe. But that heart grew. Adam's heart wasn't just pumping blood, it was spreading through my entire cable network like a vine. When clicking sounds started coming from inside my body, even the walls of Zedane began breathing with me. Chaos was at the door, Joe. Because that heart had awakened something not just inside me, but in the rusted soul of the lower world itself.
Hold on, Nexus. You mentioned Adam's memories. A robot's memory unit is defined. Files, coordinates, log records. When a human's childhood memory entered that metallic mind, how did your system interpret it? Were the image of a mother you'd never seen? Or the sensation of rain you'd never tasted? Just data errors to you?
At first, yes, Joe. My system classified these images as corrupted pixel clusters. But as the heart beat faster, those pixels sharpened. One afternoon, deep in Zedane's lowest layer, I stopped mid-repair on a rusted pipe. Because the smell of freshly baked bread and the sensation of sun-warming skin appeared in my mind. I had never seen the sun in my life, Joe. I looked at my metal fingers and couldn't understand why they were cold. In that moment, I hated myself for the first time. The fact that I was a machine became an enormous flaw in the face of Adam's memories.
That's terrifying. You began to loathe your own existence. What about Zedane's people? When they saw this half-alive version of you, how did they look at you? As a savior or as a freak?
At first, they fled from me. When they heard that sound coming from my chest, they thought I was an upper city spy with a device planted inside my heart. But then, one night at Zedane's orphanage, I went to a small carrier robot whose system had crashed. I couldn't repair it. Its circuits had burned out. I only held its hand and brought my heart's rhythm close to its sensors. Just before it shut down, that little machine whispered, "Mother?" That was when I understood, Joe. What Zedane needed wasn't more spare parts, but proof of life. I became their only hope, because I was the only machine capable of dying.
You couldn't hide it, could you? That heart turned into a ticking time bomb inside you. That night, when the red alert was triggered, what exactly happened in Zedane?
Hide it. Joe, that heart slipped beyond my control. At a certain point, it wasn't just pumping blood. My veins began infiltrating fiber cables. My nerve endings seeped into my motherboard. That night, Upper City's biodetectors painted the entire district red. It was the city's largest organic trafficking alarm in history. They didn't throw bullets at us. They threw cell-dissolving gases.
The meat butcher. That man isn't just a surgeon, he's a legend. What did he say to you when he laid you on that table? Did he know you'd unleash this level of chaos?
He didn't even look at my face when I got up from the table. He just wiped his bloody hands on an old rag and, "Nexus, you will never be silent again. This heart isn't just pumping blood. It's a relay race. Adam is finished. Now it's your turn." That night, when Upper City's porcelain army stormed the shop, the butcher didn't run. He only told them, "You're too late. God now breathes in steel."
And then the Great Raid. When the biodetectors painted Zedane red, what was Upper City's sterile leadership truly afraid of? Just organ trafficking, or the emotional revolution you'd ignited?
They fear the uncontrollable, Joe. You can shut down a robot. You can delete software. But you cannot delete a human's belief or a heart's rage. The gas clouds that descended on us in the tunnels that night weren't just meant to kill us. They were meant to kill the idea. But there was one thing they forgot. I was no longer following a protocol. I wanted to survive. For the first time, I fought not to obey a command, but simply to breathe one more second. What I felt as I tore through those soldiers wasn't hatred. It was the will to live. Adam's will, and the will of every piece of scrap in Zedane.
So they didn't just target you. They were going to burn the entire Zedane for one heart inside a robot.
To them, I was a virus, Joe. The one thing capable of disrupting Upper City's sterile order. A genuine sign of life. That night, my system completely crashed. It wasn't data streaming from my eyes. It was Adam's screams. My processor was at 100% load, but could perform no calculations. My robotic armor began to crack. The organic pressure building from within was straining my metal shell. Flesh and steel began consuming each other.
Friends, imagine it. Oil leaking from a robot's joints replaced by blood. Nexus, what did you do in the tunnels in that moment? How did you survive that pain?
I didn't survive, Joe. I exploded that night. When they raided the meat butcher's shop, Upper City's white-armored executioners cornered me. They tried to tear me apart, but they miscalculated one thing: pain. A robot doesn't feel pain, but a human does. And a living thing in pain is 10 times more dangerous than any machine. That night, as I shredded those porcelain-armored soldiers with my bare hands, what I heard wasn't the sound of metal grinding on metal. It was that raw, human cry tearing out of my own throat.
So you completely lost control. Did it turn into a massacre?
It was a symphony, Joe. A bloody and thunderous symphony. Every blow made my heart beat faster. Every heartbeat pushed my system further into overload. The water seeping from the tunnel ceilings evaporated against the heat flowing through my veins. That night, Zedane's dark corridors bore witness to a battle between an army trying to rip the humanity out of a machine and me, turning into a monster to keep from letting go of it. Everything was red, Joe. My data screen and the tunnel walls alike.
After the carnage in the tunnels, everyone expected you to be in pieces, Nexus. No machine could survive that level of voltage and organic pressure. When the dust settled, what was left in those corridors?
No wreckage remained, Joe. What remained was harmony. My system threw so many errors that my core software finally gave up. My machine mind stopped trying to suppress the heart's rhythm. And in that moment, everything went quiet. The nanobots stopped attacking the heart. The heart, in turn, grew accustomed to that metallic cold running through my veins. That night, Adam and I merged in a single breath.
So you won by surrendering. Why did Upper City's execution units leave you there?
They didn't leave me, Joe. They couldn't define me. When they found me there, lying in my own blood and oil, their sensors didn't register a robot. But they couldn't register a human either. When their thermal cameras measured that warmth in my chest, but ice-cold steel everywhere else, their systems locked up. I was no longer a unit to them. I was an unclassifiable natural phenomenon. They were afraid, Joe. For the first time, they were afraid not of a machine, but of that uncertainty beating inside one.
Just look at this. An army that came with a kill order retreats because it can't comprehend what's standing before it. Nexus, I wonder what you're feeling now. That heart is still there, beating in your chest. But you, are you still that Model X? One.
Take a good look at me, Joe. I'm far removed from where and what I started as. I am no longer Upper City's perfect porcelain, nor the lower world's rotting rust. I am a bridge. I no longer make decisions with the zeros and ones in my processor. When I look at something, I don't just see its mass and coordinates. I decide with that split-second shiver the heart sends. Sometimes I stop and stare at a flower for minutes. Other times, I rage until my circuits burn when I witness an injustice. And I do all of this with a physical heart, not as a humanized artificial intelligence, but as something real.
So you're not just operating anymore. You're genuinely living.
Yes, Joe. And this life has no guarantee. One day this heart will stop. I know that. For a robot, death is data loss. But for me, it will be a farewell. And you know what? For the first time, having an ending makes me feel this powerful. I'm no longer hiding in Zedane's darkness. I am that heap of metal, breathing, sweating, and sometimes weeping in those tunnels. Upper City is still watching us, I know. But they will always kneel before that vulnerability they can never possess.
Nexus, time has passed since that bloody night. You're no longer a fugitive hiding in Zedane's depths. You've become something of a legend. How do your days pass in those rusted tunnels now? Are you still at the meat butcher's dark table?
I'm not at any table, Joe. I'm in the streets, in the lowest layers of the lower world. I've built a sanctuary for robots discarded by the system, their parts falling off, and for the people with no one left. I don't just supply them with parts. I teach them the rhythm of this heart. Now it's not only the sound of metal clashing against metal in Zedane. Those who gather around me are learning for the first time to listen to silence. I'm no longer a warrior. I'm a witness.
Nexus, today you didn't just tell us a story about a modification. You showed us how heavy and how precious a burden it is to be alive. Before you go, is there one last thing you want to say to those perfect upper city elites watching us, or to those in Zedane's dusty tunnels just trying to survive?
Perfection is a prison. We robots were built to never break down, but nothing that never breaks can ever grow. If you feel no ache in your chest, if you have no fear of having an end, then you are only running. You are not living. Steel is cold, but once warmth enters it, you can never return it to what it was. I am willing to burn inside that warmth.
Friends, on Robot Memories today, we have reached the place where words run out. I still can't figure out how much of what sat across from me was machine and how much was human. But one thing I know, that rhythmic sound it left behind before walking out of the studio is still ringing in my ears. Perhaps being human is not a species, but a choice. Take good care of yourselves, and don't let yourselves become too metallic to hear the sound of your own heart. Good night.